What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you how I set up my basses. So in my last video I did an unboxing of my new Ernie Musicman Stingray Special, and in that video I mentioned how the action on the bass is really high and I was going to need to set it up and lower the action. And one of the viewers left a comment saying, hey, can you make a video showing us how you set up your basses? And that comment got a lot of thumbs up. It seems like it's something that a lot of people are interested in seeing, so if there's something that you guys want to see, I'm always happy to show it to you. So that's what we're going to do today. So the goal of this video is to lower the action on this bass. And I'm going to be saying the word action a lot in this video. And I know there are total beginners that watch my videos. So before we move on to anything else, let's just define what the word action means. So action just means the distance between your string and your fretboard. So when your string is really far away from the fretboard, we call that high action. And when your string is very close to the fretboard, we call that low action. That's it. That's all that means. And before we move on to the mechanics of how we actually raise and lower the action on the bass, let's talk about where you'd want to set your action, right? Do you go high? Do you go low? Do you go medium? Where should you put it? And there's really no standard way of setting your action. It's really going to depend on your style of playing and the kind of music you're playing. And the action is going to affect two things on your bass. It's going to affect the playability and the tone. And there are some styles of playing that are really difficult with high action, and some styles are impossible with high action, such as tapping, for example. If your action is really high, your strings are really high off the fretboard, tapping is going to be very difficult, and depending on how high it is, it may even be impossible. And if you lower it too much, it's going to affect your tone, possibly in a negative way by introducing some fret buzz and stuff like that. So really the goal is finding the balance between playability and tone. And I'm going to illustrate a few differences between low action and high action. So I have my old Stingray here, which has pretty low action, say like medium low. It's not super low, but it is more on the lower side. And then I have my new Stingray, which has really high action. So I'm going to play this one a little bit. And if I play with a really soft touch, you'll see that it sounds pretty clean, no buzz, no nothing. But if I really dig in, you see that it has kind of a snappiness to it. And I know a lot of guys who watch these videos are big fans of Flea. I've never personally seen his basses, but just from hearing it, I can tell that he has pretty low action because he has that snappiness to his sound. Right? And if I play the bass with the really high action, you'll notice that it does not have that snappiness no matter how hard I play it. So see, I'm playing pretty hard and you're not hearing that snappiness. So not only is it a lot harder to play, but you're not hearing that snap that you hear with the lower action. So that's one of the ways that the action is going to affect your tone. If you want that snappiness, you have to lower the action. Also, like I said, when it comes to tapping, it's going to be very difficult. You're able to do it, but it's not going to sound as good. It's going to be more difficult, and your hands are going to get very tired from pushing this much distance with your fingers. And also, when it comes to slap bass, it's really important to have the action lower, because when your action is high, then when you hit the string is not going to touch the frets, and really that snappiness in the slap bass sound comes from the frets hitting, or the string rather, hitting the frets. That metal on metal contact creates that snappiness, but when your string is this high up, no matter how hard you hit it, it's still not coming close. So for certain styles of music or styles of playing, you may actually want this high action. If you don't want that snappy tone, like let's say you're playing rock really aggressively with the pick and you want a really clean sound without any fret buzz, without any of that snappiness. I don't have a pick right now, but just kind of give you an idea. You know, it's going to sound very different than with a low action. And also if you're playing fingerstyle and you dig in really hard and you don't want that snappiness, you want like like a really clean sound, if you want like a really clean Motown, James Jamerson kind of sound, I mean, he was also playing flat wounds, but the high action also plays a role because you can really dig in. And it sounds really, really clean versus if you were to do it on this one. Let's just compare the differences here. And that was with me digging in as hard as I was on this and really applying pressure. If I play softly or lightly, it'll clean it up a little bit, but you know, on that one you can really dig in and you're gonna get a very consistent, clean sound. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're setting your action. Where should you set it? Should you have it high or low? It's really gonna depend on what you're playing, what kind of sound you're going for. Do you want that snappiness? Are you gonna be doing a lot of tapping? Are you gonna be doing a lot of slap? And you can also have different basses set up in different ways. You don't have to set all your basses up the same way. For example, my Fender Jazz bass, I have super low action on that because I really only use that bass for slap, and it sounds incredible for slap with the really low action that it has. So that's another thing to take into consideration. If you have multiple basses, you can set them up in different ways for different styles, and that's the kind of benefit or advantage to having different basses. So this one is a bass that I kind of use for everything. When I go on the road and I can only take one bass, I usually take this one. So I have like medium low action, it's not super low, to the point where I can kind of do everything on it. I can play slap, I can play fingerstyle, I can play with a pick, and it still sounds pretty good. I just have to control my dynamics and how hard I'm hitting it to get all the different sounds. Whereas this one with the really high action, I can really dig in and it's gonna sound clean. If I really dig in on this one, it's not gonna sound clean, but if I play with a soft touch, it will. All right, so that's enough on the whole action, where you should set it and what it's gonna affect in your playing. Hopefully that was insightful, and now let's get to the actual setting up and adjusting the action and lowering it on this bass. So the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna need a set of Allen wrenches. This bass actually came with the tools that you would need for the job. If you don't have them, you can just get a set like this that has Allen wrenches in all different sizes. And I can leave a link to this in the description box if you guys want, so that you can easily see what it is and find it and all that. And so I'm gonna get the tools that came with this bass. And there are two adjustments that you would need to make. First off, we have to take a look at the neck, and we adjust that through what's called the truss rod. And you'll find that in a lot of basses up here, like on a Fender Jazz bass, you'll see a little thing sticking out here. That's the truss rod. And in this bass and some other basses, you're gonna find it where the neck meets the body. So this one is right here. That's where we're gonna be adjusting it. And I'm gonna show you how you adjust that, how you figure out where you have to adjust that to. So the first thing I do is I fret down the string on the first fret, and then I fret it down where the neck meets the body, so right here. And then this is kind of acting as like a ruler or a straight line across the fretboard that's going to allow you to see how bowed or how straight your neck is. And so what I do is I reach over with my middle finger here as far as I can go. Usually I land on like around the 9th fret right here, and then I tap on this to see where the action is at. Sometimes it's kind of hard to see how far away the string is from that fret, but if you tap it, you can get a pretty good idea. You can hear it when you tap it a little bit harder, and if you tap it slow, you can see it moving. And the goal here is you want it to be pretty close to the frets to where you can kind of fit a sheet of paper in there. So you don't want it touching the fret, and you don't want it to be very high up. You want it just like where you can fit a little sheet of paper in there. And there are guys that use tools like a feeler gauge, it's called, where you can kind of slip it in there and see exactly what that distance is. I don't, I just go by feel. Like right now, I can see that right there. It's pretty close to the fret, but it's not right on it. If this was too high off the fretboard and you wanted to lower it, you would need to tighten the truss rod, which you do by moving it clockwise. So just think of like a screwdriver and a screw. When you want to tighten the screw, you turn it clockwise so that it tightens, and you would do the same thing with a truss rod. So if you had a truss rod here, you would just tighten it, so you'd go up this direction, and in this one, you would go the opposite, and you just tighten it. And if this here was touching the fretboard, then you would want to loosen it to add more relief to the neck. So then you turn it counterclockwise and loosen the truss rod. So this is a little bit higher than where I want it to be. So I'm gonna straighten the neck by tightening the truss rod a little bit. And we only wanna do a quarter turn at a time. So I have the tool right in here and we're going to just go like a quarter turn this way, clockwise. Oh, it's hard to do this while holding the camera, but let me try here. Quarter turn. Just about that. So I turn it about a quarter turn, and now we're gonna check it again. You wanna go slow. Do a quarter turn, check it, do a quarter turn, check it. You don't wanna go crazy with this because if you move it too much, you can actually break your truss rod and damage your bass. So you wanna be very careful. It's just a quarter turn at a time and really take your time with this and be patient. It can take time sometimes to do a quarter turn, you check it, quarter turn, check it, but just take your time with it. It's worth it. You don't wanna damage your bass. You want to do a good job on this. So I turn it about a quarter turn, which is not a lot, but it can make the difference that I need it to make. So let's check it right now. All right, and that pretty much did it. So it definitely lowered it, but there's still a little bit of space in there, just about the amount of space that we want. You can fit like a little piece of paper in there, but that's about it. And now that we have that all done, we can move on to the bridge saddles and get those lower too. Okay, and now we move on to the bridge saddles here, which you can raise or lower by taking your Allen wrench and you just stick it in these little holes here. If you loosen it, it's gonna lower it, and if you tighten it, it's gonna raise it. The only thing is, if you're just lowering it, you don't have to detune the string, it's fine. But if you're gonna raise it, you wanna loosen the string, detune it, because that's gonna be a lot of pressure for you to screw that and raise it with all that tension of the string, and you could strip the threads in the saddle, and you don't want to do that. So if you're raising it, you're going to tighten it, but loosen the strings first. If you're lowering it, which is what we're doing, then you can just go for it and just loosen it just like this. So I don't know if you can see that on camera, but that's actually lowering right here. Let me see if I can show it even closer. See, it's going down, and then you want to do it on the other side and make sure that you have them even so that this is straight after you do it. Because right now it's crooked because I did this one and not this one. So we'll loosen this one. And after you lower it, it is going to go a little bit flat. So you're going to want to tune up that string. And then when you tune it up, you just see where you're at, see where your action is at, make sure it's not buzzing anywhere if it's as low as you want it to be. In this case, I didn't go low enough. I have to go a little bit lower. And then you just set it up to where you get it where you want it. And when it's low enough, just play through it. So these are still very high because I haven't adjusted them yet, but when you do, just play through them, make sure they're not buzzing, make sure they're sounding the way you want to. If you go a little too low, you do too much, don't worry, just detune the string, bring it back up, and then just do it again, and that's fine. You can do that as many times as you want. You want to be careful with the truss rod. The truss rod, you don't want to move it too much. You want to do like a quarter turn at a time because you're moving wood here. You know, you could break it if you go too much, so go very, very little. And a lot of times when you adjust it, it'll take some time for the wood to really adjust. So you might come back to it the next day and see that it's a little bit different. It's a little bit lower, a little bit higher. So, you know, be very careful with the truss rod. But with the saddles here, you can go up and down as much as you want. You won't damage anything. Okay, so now I'm just gonna finish setting this up on the bridge here. And then once I'm done, we'll see how it sounds. All right, so finish setting this up, and then the next step, what you want to do is just tune it up, make sure that it's in tune. I tuned it up here real quick. It's looking pretty good right now. And there's that snappiness back. See the difference in sound when I dig in now? I wasn't getting that before. It feels a lot better to play, and now we can do all the tapping stuff. All the slap stuff sounds great now. There you have it. That is how I set up the bass. This is playing great now, sounding great, loving how this is feeling. And that is pretty much it. So hopefully that was clear. I don't want this video to be too long. I feel like it's too long already. There are a lot of other videos on YouTube that show you how to set up your truss rod and saddles. So if you're still confused about that, you can check those out. The most important thing that I wanted to point out is where you want to actually set your action and show you the differences between sound and playability in low action and high action, because I feel like that's what a lot of videos don't really talk about, is where do you actually want to set your action. So hopefully that was helpful, hopefully that was insightful. And another thing to keep in mind is that humidity and weather, hot and cold climates, are going to affect your action as well. The neck will move with, you know, humidity and dry climates and stuff like that. So this is not something that you just do one time and then you're good forever. This is something that, you know, like if you travel, for example, if you go from a dry climate to a humid climate, that might affect your action. And when you go from summer to winter, if you're living in a place that has like drastic temperature changes, you go from like a hot, humid summer to a dry, cold winter, that's going to affect your action. So you might have to do this, you know, through seasonal changes or through traveling or stuff like that. So hopefully you guys got a lot of value out of this video. If you did, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Leave a thumbs up because that helps the video and the channel. And if there's anything else that you guys want to see, or if you have any questions, just leave a comment below and I'd be more than happy to help you. So hope you guys enjoy it. And with that being said, I will see you guys soon.